Today, when we do constructions, we're going to learn how to create certain angles. So the first one we're going to start with is a 60-degree angle. How am I going to know how to do a 60-degree angle? Okay, I'm going to start with a base. Start with a ray and then build off of that one. Okay, from there I want to make this angle here 60 degrees. How am I going to do that? Well, think about what we know about 60 degrees. When we have an equilateral triangle, all three sides are the same. What are the measures of all three angles? They're also 60 degrees. So we can use our compass, we're using it as a measuring tool. We're going to mark off all three sides being the same length of that equilateral triangle is basically what we're doing. So if that's my length of my base, imagine I'm making a second side here with the same length. I'm just going to draw an arc because I'm not sure where that point of that triangle would land. And I come over here and I'm basically making that third side. Okay, so what have I got here? If I were to connect that to that and connect that to that, I would have an equilateral triangle, right? So what are my angle measures if I did that? Let's go right to that point where those intersect. That's going to be a 60-degree angle. Because we built this thing based on an equilateral triangle. I'll draw the line in here really softly because that's not really what we were asked to do, but just so you guys can see. When I used my compass as a measuring tool to make all three of these lengths exactly the same, I was creating a equilateral triangle. So all three of these angles would be 60, right? All right, that's how I built that. What if I asked you to draw a 30-degree angle? Well, we're going to use what we learned yesterday about how to bisect an angle. If we already made a 60 here, we can just turn that into a 30. Right. When we go to bisect an angle, what do? We already have our 2 points here that we can use. And if we can find the perpendicular bisector through the base of that triangle right there, it's going to go through that like an altitude of the triangle and cut these two angles into two equal angles. Well, since our big angle is 60, each of those little angles is going to be 30, correct? So I want to make my compass a little bit bigger than halfway along that line. I'm going to create that arc. I'm going to go and measure the arc from that point as well. And then line up goes perfect. So what have we made right here? A 30-degree angle. You guys with me on that? 60, 30. How about a 45? Well, the first day we did these, what did we make a ton of? We made a ton of perpendiculars. Well, when you're drawing a perpendicular, what angle are you creating? A perpendicular, two perpendicular lines meet at a 90-degree angle, right? So how do you think we're going to make a 45 from a 90? It's going to be the same method we just did. When I want to make a perpendicular, it doesn't matter where I'm doing it. I can either use the bisector or I could do it kind of over to the side more. Just a place to start. asked to make a 45 here, so what do I want to do? I want to bisect that angle. So think back about what we did yesterday when we bisected angles. I need a point here on that line and a point here on that line that are both equidistant to my point of my angle. And from those 2 points, I need a mark to draw that bisector. I can probably sharpen my head. That's going to draw more accurate angles if you put the wedge. There we go. It's going to be a 45-degree angle since that's the angle bisector of a 90-degree angle. Then the very last thing is that we can add these up to create different sized angles. So maybe they ask me to give an angle that is 105 degrees. Okay, what do we know that we can add together to make 105? A 60 plus a 45, right? Okay. So we're just going to do those two examples that we just did, how to create a 60 and how to create a 45, right beside each other. And when those add together, they're going to equal a 105. So I don't know. I'll start with the, how about I just start with the 45 since we just finished making that one. Okay, so we had a 45. How are we going to add a 60 to it? Well, I'm not going to totally erase this, but I'm going to kind of make it lighter just so it won't get in our way. And when you guys are doing your practice work, I don't want you to erase lines because I need to see the process of you doing the construction. You need to have those arcs and lines there. So I could start with a 45 if I'm asked to make a 105 and add a 60 to it. So basically, I'm using this as my baseline, just like we did when we started our 60. If I start with this line, and remember I'm kind of building an equilateral triangle on top of that. So I'm going to mark that. Go from there. Mark another up here. So that's that leg, wherever it lands, will be that length. This leg is also that length. And then this leg is also that length. So if I draw a line from there to there to there, I would have created an equilateral triangle. I don't need to create a whole triangle, I just need a 60-degree angle. So I'm going from that point. So that is 60. So what is this big angle is 105. How about that? And we could do the same for any combination. If we did, maybe we drew a 90 and added a 45 to it. So if they asked us to do a 135-degree angle, we're going to combine these together the same way. We could do a 45 plus a 30 to equal a 75-degree angle. We're using the same 60, 30, 90, 45 method and adding them together. So you could make a lot of combinations like that.